Welcome to the Security Today podcast. I'm your host, Uncle Baer, and we're back at it again for another Bid2Bank episode. Every single week we put out episodes and they all come in different flavors and segments, but this is definitely one of my favorite as this is called Bid2Bank. So if you haven't seen this episode before, we walk through everything from the bid to the bank with a successful entrepreneur who's running a low volt shop, just like who we have today with Daniel Higdon. Daniel and I have known each other quite a while through the nonprofit Technology Worldwide. I rep them at the end of every show. You can check them out at technology.org, I think. And so they're a community that gets a bunch of like-minded individuals together who are working in low volt, and they have been such an asset to those individuals. But on top of that, they have tackled a new genre of philanthropy where they go out into places and they donate not food, not shelter, not any of the necessities that we should be charitably donating to those who have less than we do, but they donate technology. And so that's where I met Daniel, and I'm just so glad to have him on the podcast today. We're going to walk through everything from the bid to the bank, and I'm excited to be here. Dan, thanks for joining, man. And will you give us a little bit of rundown of who you are, maybe how you got into this, and then a little bit about Ashton Computing, your company, computer.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It is Ashton Computer, but we do computing as well. So my name is Daniel Higdon. I am the second generation. I guess technically I'm the vice president of Ashton Computer, but my father started the company in 1996 in our garage. We have luckily been running successfully ever since then. Few ups and downs along the way, but we're still kicking. So I have been working there since around 2006. Okay. As a young pup.
Yeah, young pup, huh?
Yeah, I was a young pup. Started off just doing help desk stuff. Eventually, I did leave the company at one point as a teenager because I was not quite mature enough to hold a job stably. But luckily, my dad ended up having me come back. I think I went back to the company full time when I was 21, and I've been there ever since. So I had to learn some life lessons for a couple of years, but then I realized that working for yourself or your family is a lot better than working for a stranger. So we've kind of been going full steam ahead ever since.
And so how big is Ashton Computer?
So right now we have 6 people. It is a family operation. So we have my dad, Don. You didn't get to meet him. He was at the next event, but he wasn't in Philadelphia when we met. So we have my dad. My mom works there. She runs the books. My grandpa actually works there still. He is, I think he's going to be 95 this year.
Oh, wow.
And that's crazy. He's been building computers for us since my dad started. Yeah. Since he started, he worked at Bell South. So he was OG. That's cool. Low voltage. Yeah. He worked on the Trade Center phone system back in the day when they were building it. So he's seen some stuff. But
that's remarkable, man.
Yeah, he still comes to work. He is a part-time employee at this point, so he's Tuesday to Thursday, but he is without a doubt the best employee that we have ever had. Never late. Yeah. Never calls in. Doesn't try to leave early.
What more could you ask for?
Yeah. It's so funny because at this point he's pretty old, and he'll have his desk is kind of in the middle of our office, so we'll hear conversations. He'll be talking to a doctor or something, and they'll be trying to schedule a doctor's appointment for him, and he'll say, oh no, that day won't work, I got to work that day. So even though we're more than willing to work with him, he still will not schedule a doctor's appointment on the days that he's supposed to be at work. So yeah,
That's awesome.
it's truly amazing. I mean, it's a little more difficult for him nowadays, but he can still build a computer, and he'll make a few errors every now and then, but things have changed a lot since he was really in the mix. But
Yeah.
he's kind of been our inventory guy and computer builder. We all do the loading and programming and whatnot, but he can still crank them out, man. It's pretty funny to see. But
That's awesome.
Yeah,
so
other than
you guys
him,
are based out of. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. Other than him, we have two other techs. We have kind of a workbench tech, and then we have another on-site tech that does a lot of what we do. So.
And you do service and like new installation, or?
Yeah. So we're based out of Evansville, Indiana. So smaller Indiana town. We do managed services, and I guess what I tell everybody is anything with blinky lights we'll pretty much work on for somebody. We're not much into the access control, like obviously that's your thing, but we handle a pretty wide range of technologies for all of the our market is more of like small, medium-sized businesses that aren't large enough to have internal IT staff. But the majority of our customers we've had for 15 years, and we've kind of grew up with them. So yeah, we're pretty lucky to have some of the customers that we do have still. So
awesome. And how far do you guys run? Like, are you just in Evansville, or do you run outside of that area a little bit?
So we'll service our like tri-state area.
Okay.
So anything within an hour drive is kind of our sweet spot, but we've done some travel work for, if we have a long-term customer that has either a business in a different city or a home, vacation home, whatever, we'll go and on special requests do things like that. But the majority of our stuff is all within an hour of Evansville.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that from all the guests that I've had on to the Bid2Bank platform or segment, I don't know that I've had someone with a family business like that. So I'm really glad that we got you on here. I'm really glad to get that perspective. And I think that, your situation speaks to a lot of the IT, fixed blinky lights, MSP, and you obviously, one of the other reasons that I wanted you on here is because you guys keep an open mind. I mean, it was just a couple days ago now, I think, that you were sending me pictures about access control. So even if it's a little bit outside, but it's still technology, you guys are forward thinking and you're ready to tackle whatever your customer needs, or that you can help them with.
Yeah. So obviously over the past 5 or so years, everything has, this giant integration move has been made where most of these things are ran on cat cable, which we do know very well. A lot of the security stuff we're definitely not super versed in. So, that project in general will definitely have a partner, somebody that I would consider a industry expert, which is why, I reached out to you to see what your opinion was, because I was listening to one of your, I can't remember what his name was, but you guys were talking about door health. And
Brian, right? From A&B?
Yep.
Yeah.
So I heard that and I was like, when my customer asked me about putting some access control in some doors, first thing that popped in my head, I'm like, I got to see these frames. We got to check these hinges out. We got to make sure that if this is even possible, it's going to work well going forward. And, obviously I reached out to you and it wasn't too bad. So I think we might have
Yeah,
a
your first
project on our
access
hands.
control
So
job.
yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. I know that Brian from A&B he probably just looked up into the sky and smiled a little bit, like felt the twinkle that somebody is approaching it with door health first,
Yeah.
because that's a rare idea. So that's awesome. Well, let's get into the Bid2Bank questions and just kind of run down and see maybe how some of your operations and how you handle things, and see what we can work out of it here. So in Bid2Bank, we actually start a little bit ahead of the bid. Bid2Bank sounded better than marketing and bank, so
Mhm.
so we didn't title it that. But can you give us a rundown on maybe some different types of marketing that you do? And I know that you've talked about having customers for a long time. So how do you acquire? How do you, let's say this? How do you continue to market to the customers you have, and then how also do you acquire new work?
So as I said, a lot of our customers, I can't think of very many that we've actually lost where we've started to take care of them and then they went a different direction.
Mm-hmm.
There's been some mutual breakups, but nothing where we've been fired per se. So whenever we've been very, very lucky in regards to marketing, because we've kind of found a sweet spot where we keep everybody that we do have busy, and we haven't really had too many ideas of grandeur, I guess, to
Mm-hmm.
want to hire 10 more techs and do more. Obviously we want to make more money, but when you get into managing that many more people, we haven't crossed that threshold yet, at least.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't do a whole lot of marketing. We do a lot of, little like small town things where we have like a sponsored bowling alley, one of the alleys, we have our name up there. We've been doing that for 15, 20 years now.
Yeah.
But, as far as full blown marketing campaigns, we really, when we do get new customers, it's all word of mouth for the most part. We'll meet somebody, they'll talk about how terrible their situation is when in regards to, their technology. And, usually that transforms into us taking over all of their, whatever they need, basically.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a weird small town thing that we have going on, but it's worked for us for a while now. So yeah, I don't have a lot of good information on that aspect of it.
No,
it is
I
something
think
we
I
need
actually,
to improve on, but
yeah, I actually think you do, because you've got a unique situation being out of Evansville. So I want to drill in just a little bit on that community aspect. Like you said, you put, something up at the bowling alley lane, and when addressing a more hometown, smaller city or smaller town vibe, you kind of got to get a little bit more creative with that word to mouth. So it is sponsoring the little league teams, or it is being at the the local parade or anything like that. Do you guys participate in things like that as a company around your community?
yeah, so we always do different golf scrambles, different little community things.
Mm-hmm.
We're not doing Facebook campaigns, we're not,
Right.
obviously you look at my social media, I don't even have a post on our company page, which also something that I need to work on, but I haven't quite it up until really I joined the technology group. Social media for me was not for business purposes.
Mm-hmm.
There's obviously been a huge shift since COVID and whatnot, and everybody kind of was I'm gonna call it microwaved into the digital age,
Yeah.
not by choice, but
Yeah.
because they had to be.
Yeah.
And it is something that we hope to get better at in the future, but it still hasn't been a huge priority because, as I said, we keep everybody pretty busy, and with the customers, I mean, we have a pretty good sized book of business for the little amount of people that we do have. So, you know, we try not to overburden ourselves with too much.
Do you think that book of business has been grown off of a smaller maybe client list because of your willingness to do whatever they need?
Oh, for sure. And you know, we have people that started with 5 employees that now have 50, you know. So we've been able to watch them grow. Obviously, as you add more and more people, software changes, technology changes, you know, everything has become so demanding from a IT perspective, you know, over the past 10 years. It's, you know, it's like power and water. So when people's IT doesn't work, you know, they can't really function as a business. So it does put quite the burden on us sometimes, only because, you know, we're basically responsible for their well-being and, you know, to make money, to pay their employees, for them to feed their families, for, you know, all those things. It's a pretty big trickle effect, at least from my perspective nowadays, because it is just so important to have those things and have them functioning properly. So
awesome. So with the clientele that you do have, and, you know, I also really respect your perspective because you've got customers that you've been with for the life of their business. I mean, if they're working with 5 people and they're moving up to 50, they're really growing, and you've been there along that journey. So when it comes to doing work for these people and you get into the bid, do you quote with any sort of software, whether it be like QuickBooks or Quota or anything like that?
So we use a program called Synchro. It's like a PSA RMM platform. It has some quoting capabilities built in that, but we're still kind of doing a lot of it manually. Not necessarily proud to say that, but I've demoed a lot of different platforms, but I haven't quite found one that I'm like, we have to have this. Because some of them get pretty expensive, and with, you know, being as small as we are, we can kind of make do with what we have. You know, we miss things every now and then, but we get pretty close, and the relationships that we've built with the people that we've taken care of, they know that we're kind of looking out for their best interests, even if, you know, you know, we missed this piece to the puzzle. It's going to be a little bit extra than what we originally anticipated, and we haven't really had many issues when it comes to that. So it's kind of working for us.
Yeah, definitely. And there's not anything to be ashamed with manual input. I think that at a certain level, it probably adds, in that environment, do you think that it adds a little bit of authenticity to the business? Because you're dealing with a different environment when you come into a bigger city. For instance, like where I live in the KC metro area, if you come in and you're shiny and you're clean and you got all these systems and automations and stuff like that, you can win some like really big business of contractors or, you know, new buildings going up or something like that. But when you get into kind of the breadbasket of America, you get down there and you come in with all the shiny bells and whistles. Oftentimes in smaller communities, that's maybe even less trusted than it would be, which would be something that in a bigger community would be looking for that. In a smaller community, it's like, well, we want to know that you're one of us. You're not just this salesman in a suit that's got all these automations and programs and all this other stuff. Have you seen that be beneficial in your setting?
Oh, for sure. And I guess something that we really emphasize is making sure they're comfortable, because technology makes people anything people don't know about is just, it's uncomfortable for them. So if somebody can't figure something out on their computer, or, something's wrong, we always get this thing where people say, I've spent 6 hours trying to fix this, man. I just can't do it. I don't know what else to do. I'm like, man, you should have called 5.5 hours ago. Like,
Yeah.
then we hop on there, click, 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 and everything's going. And they're like, that's it. That's it. I don't know why you wasted your whole weekend trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
But people find it embarrassing, but it's just that not their wheelhouse. It's like a mechanic. I don't fix cars. I take my car somewhere to get fixed. I trust that they're going to fix it the right way better than what I could fix it. So, it kind of got to let people play their role.
Yeah.
And we don't necessarily, we're definitely not writing things on pen and paper. So we do plenty of digital things. It's not fully automated, but, just making sure they understand what they want. A lot of times people don't know what they want too. So trying to figure out what they're trying to ask for, and then, obviously fulfilling that need is sometimes challenging, but guiding them through that and making sure they understand that you understand what they want is a big sell in our situations. So,
yeah. And so in that type of environment, when you're dealing with those situations, I am curious to how do you approach bidding a job? Like, do you just go part by part and then you have hours that you tack onto it? Or because you guys do a lot of different things for, the community that you serve. So it could be this or that or the other. So is there any method to that, or is it just kind of customized every piece by piece?
So usually it starts with some type of request. We'll need this, or I want to do this. How do we make it happen? Most of the time there's a lot more to it than just, it's super easy. You just need to do this and it'll be fine. The infrastructure portion comes, into play. It has a huge role. So a lot of times going for a site walk, doing a visit, talking to them face to face. I want you to show me exactly what you want, or try to describe to the best of your ability what you want. Okay. So that's it. You would never want to do this, because always it's, you come across things when you're quoting stuff for people. It's, well, do you think you'll ever potentially want to move past this? And, because then you're going to buy something beefier or have some features that might not be necessary right away, but 9 times out of 10 in the future, they want it. So you always ask those questions. And then most of the time when they say no, 6 months go by and they call and they're like, so I want to do this too. You're like, you don't remember us having this conversation where you said you absolutely will not want this? Sometimes, depending on the customer, we'll just build it in. So it'll just be ready anyways.
Right.
Right. There's sometimes it's, people want to try to save money and penny pinch, and then it's a really awkward conversation. But, usually we try to have a very personal, like, upfront conversation about what could be as well. And then we'll kind of build what we think would, be the most beneficial to them going forward.
Yeah. So that's interesting. So you're taking that relationship aspect into your bidding. I don't think that we've necessarily touched on that on the Bid2Bank platform. So you just said something to the effect of, like, sometimes depending on the customer, we might build it in because you are close enough to that customer to know that in 6 months, if they continue their trajectory, they're going to need that. And I think that is something that people can miss often. I don't care if you're in a small town or a big city, like that kind of gets looked over sometimes, using the relationship to dictate some of the bidding for that customer. That's new to me. That's blowing my mind a little. That's good. Awesome. So when you do get them a bid or a quote on something that they're wanting, do you use anything project management wise, that life cycle? Do you use anything to track where you're at in either that build, or if you're adding on to a wing of their business, or if they need more of this in 6 months? Are you using anything to track that, or is it pretty much manual as well?
So our Synchro PSA has a lot of that. So it's got like a ticketing system built inside of it. So any type of project, we'll make a ticket. Any updates along the way, we'll make a little remark inside of it. Kind of try to keep it as up to date as possible, because sometimes things get shuffled to the side and you forget to put it in there. But for the most part, most of our projects are tracked through that. And then as well as like all of our service tickets. So if somebody has a computer problem or even like a request, they have an icon on their desktop, they double click it, fill out the form, and it just shoots into our system and says, hey, I need this, or hey, this is broke. And then every customer has a history, so we can go back and look at any previous tickets, any previous requests, and kind of track things that way. So
from a ticketing system, what do you feel like is most critical of a business to make sure that your customers is taken care of during that? Well, so it would probably be like the project management section for a ticketing system is an open ticket. So when that ticket is open, what do you feel is like most critical for a business to pay attention to, so that customer is taken care of in a timely manner and is happy, and you're delivering on your service? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So obviously communication is huge, especially in today's construction world, because things change. And a lot of times those people that are not, close to you don't always keep you in the loop. So just this morning, we had a customer that's been looking for a building. They had a building, and then yesterday they called and said, hey, we have internet coming tomorrow at 8 a.m. Can you be there to get it set up? Like, well, would have loved to know sooner, but, sure, we'll be there. And, this one was like an hour drive. So we left early this morning, drove up there, messed with the ISP, went through. We had never seen it in person, so we got to do our first site walk and install the internet at the same time. But just the bones. We got a router up, threw an access point up. We're not doing cameras at this site. They had somebody already, but they wanted to get an internet connection. So when the guys do come do cameras, they can actually use them, and they're not just sitting there headless and have no idea what's going on. So we prioritize that for them. They're a good customer of ours. So another one that's kind of growing. Their office, they started with, I think, 2 or 3 people, and now they're upwards of 20 in 2 locations. So everybody, not everybody, but a lot of the people that we are taking care of are still on some pretty fierce pathways to success. So we get to kind of be along for the ride, I guess, which is great.
Yeah, definitely. And using that communication, especially on customers like you just described, maybe a long-standing customer, those long-standing customers that you do have, what are some things that personally you or your father or maybe one of your techs that you guys do to make sure that that customer experience over a long period of time is coming out in the positive, coming out on top, outside of obviously communication. But are there things that you feel like you do to take care of that customer that you've seen that customer be like, wow, thanks so much for doing that, guys. Like that mattered so much to help those long-standing relationships?
Yeah, so this is kind of, I guess it's a blessing and a curse of ours. We try to take super good care of people. So whether it's before the day starts or after work hours, our core people, if they text it, I mean, at any given point, if we get a text from one of our big customers, we're going to answer. If they have a problem and it's easily resolved, we're going to resolve it. You know, obviously if we're unable to physically, it's different, but, you know, the hours of operation can, vary in our situations because we just like to keep people functioning or happy. And whether or not they have a house and they're out of town and they have a storm and now they can't see their cameras at their house, you know, and it's a Saturday morning or a Sunday afternoon or whatever it is. If we can pull it off and get them back going, we do. We try to keep, you know, anything that we have in the field, we typically have a backup. So if it dies, we're not waiting to order something. Then we get 3 days and then we get a backup. We try to, you know, keep the downtime to the absolute minimum. And it, especially like on a Sunday afternoon and you answer your phone and you're like, you get them fixed, lickety split, they're ecstatic. And
sold for life.
We thrive on those moments, and you know, it goes a long way.
Yeah, I think that some people look at that and like as a technician, we're almost programmed to think negatively towards a situation like that. Oh, my phone rang on a Sunday. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But when it comes to a small family business, it's like, ooh, those are the moments we want, you know, like obviously you don't want them every single Sunday, all Sunday, but
Yeah.
you want them every now and then because that is really sealing that relationship to show that you guys go the extra mile. The reason that they're not using some national provider is because they're not picking up their phone on Sunday. And so, yeah, that's cool. The other thing I wanted to ask was you mentioned like having a backup ready to go so that you can get people back online technically. But does that mean that is your product portfolio pretty nailed down? Like it's pretty concrete of we use this for this and this for that. And
for the most part, at least when it comes to computers, I mean, we're a Windows shop. So, you know, anything PC related, we have 30 on hand, you know, just over time it accumulates. And we do have a pretty good we maintain our stock levels of the kind of mission critical things pretty well. So anything that can take somebody down in a significant way, we try to keep at least one of for an emergency. But, you know, I guess the only thing that isn't necessarily completely nailed down is like camera systems, because they do so many different things, you know, different brands. It's just, you have the most basic and then you have the most complex and everything in between. So that's probably one thing that we kind of vary depending on the customer and they need, you know, what they need. But everything else, you know, Windows PCs, Windows servers, Windows virtual machines, whatever we need on that front, very nailed down.
And that probably comes with, I mean, like near 30 years of business, you know?
Yeah.
You've seen what fails out there and leaves someone high and dry for the
Hmm.
weekend. So you're like, we're gonna have that on stock.
Yeah. Yeah. Funny thing is, back in when my dad started this in '96, our biggest customer today, he got their business because there was an IT guy locally didn't want to deal with them. So he was like, "Hey, I'll sell you this for $500." So my dad gave him $500, went out there, met him, started taking care of him. Um, they're a car conglomerate, dealership. They have, back then they had, I think, one rooftop, and now they have 9. So it was the best $500 he ever spent
Yeah.
on anything.
Return on investment, right?
Yeah, we have like 200 users or so that are fully managed at this point. So
Mm.
it was a great buy.
Yeah. So speaking of like buying that and then, dealing with customers and the money aspect of it, what is probably, I mean, you probably deal a lot in reoccurring revenue, but how else do you go about billing customers if they need upgrades or if you have to replace something? How does that usually look for Ashton?
So the majority of our business history has been more of a break fix shop. Over the past like 5 years, we made the push to RMR like everybody else has, because it's the only way going forward now. So
Yeah.
if you want good software and you want it to work well continuously, there's going to be some type of annual fee. So in the instances that we have, whether it's doing camera systems or just someone calls and has a down computer, we just bill on an hourly rate. And then, we do net 30 terms. So also something we need to probably improve on, because for all of our long-term people, it's fine. We have been extremely lucky, knock on wood, to not have many payment issues. I know I've listened to multiple of these where people are having a hard time getting paid. We luckily have not had that issue, but that kind of also plays into these personal relationships that we build with our customers, where sometimes they'll call us to go shoot guns and it's not a computer problem. So I'm like, cool, that's great. Everything's working. Let's go have fun. And it makes the billing process a lot easier. So yeah, we probably need to adapt it for any of the new people that we have been kind of bringing on, because even I've came across some instances where people want their bill, like the job's done, the next day they want to see a bill, and for the most part, even if it's at the beginning of the month, they won't see a bill till towards the end of the month, and that is definitely something we need to improve on, because obviously getting money in faster is a good thing, but we've been very comfortable with how we've done it, and it's hard to break old habits sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. So when you get paid and the money's coming in to the coffers and you're allocating it back into your business, what sort of ways do you reinvest into your business? Is it, I mean, I'm sure there's a bunch, but maybe it's like through upgrading the equipment that you're using or training, or do you guys have service vehicles?
Yeah, so we have 3 vehicles that we run. Obviously, those all take quite a bit of investment in. Tools are expensive, if you didn't know. So we obviously buy plenty of tools. We love gadgets. So anything that can make our jobs easier. They all don't. I'm going to tell you right now. Even the most expensive one, the most expensive tool we've bought, I'm not going to say the name, but I'm sure if somebody listening to this knows what I'm talking about. It is not what we wanted, and we still have it, and we probably haven't used it more than 10 times, and we have not regained our investment from it. But so
how do you go about, like with something like that, how do you go about the next thing that looks like it could be what the last thing was? So does that teach you to research, or I'm sure that maybe like TKW helps now because you can talk to people across the nation?
That's what I was about to say is now, obviously, over the past couple of years, I've gotten really close with a lot of the guys in technology, and, you know, many of them are in the same situations that we are 9 times out of 10. And if they're not in it right at that second, they were in it 6 months before or 2 years before. So being able to kind of bounce off ideas or potential ideas that could turn into mistakes, you know, off of them because they've already made those mistakes, it goes a long way. So that one in particular tool, there's been another guy in there that bought one that is not as happy about his purchase too. So we're definitely going to collaborate on the next expensive thing that we buy. So, you know, we don't make that same mistake twice.
Right.
But
what would you say is a gadget that you have invested in that has made it easier? Like, even if it's as little as, I'll tell you one. So when I was in Montana, we were pretty far north, and so the winters would get really cold. And gosh, man, I don't remember the name of it. I should have had this pulled up, but I'll put it in the show notes so people know. But there's like this little thing that is it's rubber and webbed, and on one side there's little spikes, and you just like slip it onto your boot, and then you could walk down an iced hill in those things and not slip. And that was a gadget, like, of all the things I've invested in, from Milwaukee tools to, you know, like back in the days of locksmith auto programmers and the whole nine, it was like that thing really, it saved my ass literally. You know what I'm saying? So, but what's one thing that you feel like you've invested in that was like, oh, I'm glad that we poured money back into that because that has helped?
So recently, Trend Networks makes this thing called a Securitest, where you plug an IP camera into it. You can remote into the device from a little handheld device, you know, that's you can hold with 2 hands. You know, it's very small, but it does everything. You can tone a wire, you can test a wire, you can test a camera, you can PoE the camera directly from it. It's been a pretty solid tool. There was I remember I first started following you, but before technology, and you had what's the brand? Little fish tape, mini one. You were putting in blinds or something. General Electric, maybe.
Yeah,
like it's like a 10-foot one, and that thing I've used more than any fish tape that I have. I think solid.
It is General
super
Electric.
solid. Yeah,
and it like cranks on the side to like crank it in, and you can pull it out.
It fits in your pocket.
That was money.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. That's cool. Well, awesome. So the final 2 questions that I usually ask in this are the humbling question and the bonus question. I gotta say, you're one of the most humble guys that I know. And if you want to answer the question, you can. But I don't feel like I even need to ask it because you've been so, you know, transparent through this whole thing about where some weaknesses are and where some strengths are. But if you had one area to focus on, like you could focus on today to get it better, do you feel like you know that offhand, or have we already talked about it?
We've definitely talked about our billing cycles for new people is something we definitely need to get better at. You know, even our marketing, I'm going to make an Instagram post at some point I don't know when. I've
Yeah.
made videos. I haven't made a post yet because it's got to be a special one. But that's something that I feel like I want to actually start doing. But man, it's hard.
Yeah.
People are so good at it, and I see them, and I'm like, I start making a post. I'm like, man, this thing doesn't look anywhere near as good as his. I don't know if I can post this. But
Yeah, I know. I know. Some of those guys, they've got it down to a science, man. And
so good. They had
it's
music and flashy lights, and I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah,
damn,
yeah.
shit's weak.
Yes. Yeah. No, some of the good stuff though is that raw, like uncut kind of. You do see the guys on there. I'm thinking of one specific. I won't say, but they put the filters on, and it's them, and they're walking, and it's like more. It's more of like a social influencer.
Yeah.
Just doing low volt rather than it is a low volt guy putting up social media stuff. So, but then you get guys who they've worked it into their habit.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like that was kind of there was a lot of footage of me back when I was in it when I was in the field. A lot of the footage came from in my van. I had like a little phone thing that held it. And so a lot of the backdrop was that cage from that TSI van. I feel like a lot of people are like, yeah, that's when I started watching you. And
Mm-hmm.
so it was just like that was the habit. You put it on, you turn it on, I talk to you about what I'm doing. And it's valuable because we're all going through it. I think Frankie with Cicada, man. That guy, he shows the intricacies of what he's doing.
Oh yeah.
And it's just his habit. Okay, rolling, and he doesn't post. A lot of his stuff's reels too, not a lot of actual posts. But
I love the
maybe the
info. I mean, the
yeah
info you
yeah
get from people, it's invaluable.
yeah
Some
definitely
more than others for sure, but those guys that really want to educate and like
hmm
yourself and raise the bar, uh, man, that stuff is gold,
yeah.
pure gold.
So the bonus question is my favorite question in this, and I'm excited for your answer. I've been excited for your answer. I probably get more excited about these than I should. People be like, "You're kind of a nerd about it," but I'm like, I can't wait to ask him the bonus question. But based on like your experience, and I've really appreciated your experience because you have something pretty unique. I mean, that small town vibe. I'm just kind of geeking over it a little because I haven't had it on the podcast yet. But that is a different animal, and to get value out of it, it's a lot more. It feels like transactional, whereas maybe in from a national perspective, or if you're in a major metropolitan area, it's not as transactional to get what would I say, like monetary value out of, which is when you're in that closer environment that's more of a community, it becomes more about you need the monetary value to keep it afloat and to keep it growing, but it is transactional. It's going to shoot guns with the guys, or it's you know being at the parade or putting the bowling alley up, and it's like showing that you're there to stay and that you actually care about your community directly around you. And that's a unique perspective. So from the entire Bid2Bank process, from the very beginning of marketing it and keeping long-term customers all the way through keeping open tickets to that customer experience and using that money to reinvest into your guys' selves, what would you say the focus is, or where would you say the focus is most critical in the completion of that entire process?
I've heard it on here so many times. It's
I know what's coming.
it's doing good business.
Yeah.
If you deliver what someone asks of you and you do it ethically, and just do right by them, it has echoes for years and years and years.
Mm.
That's something that we've always done is good business, and my dad kind of instilled it in me. I don't know if I could find somebody that could say a bad thing about my dad. It's just the way it is, and I like to think that for the most part, someone couldn't say something bad about me. I'm sure there could be something said, but I try very hard to, kind of treat others the way that I want to be treated. And, it has worked for us. Everybody tells, the first thing that a lot of people say when they see my dad and they've only seen me for a while is, you got to give this kid a raise, even though obviously I'm not a kid anymore, but it's just, he's worth more money than whatever you're paying him. I don't care what it is. And my goal is for every person that I deal with should say that to my dad whenever they see him. And, that's my goal. So,
yeah.
And the technology stuff, giving back and building relationships with good dudes and girls that want to make the world a better place. That's the kind of people I want to be around and I want to associate with. And there's too much craziness in the world to add more chaos to it. So, just doing somebody wrong, it's not for me. So
yeah, I agree 100%. I think that answer speaks a lot to how when we are doing business, we need to make sure that we are working on ourselves as well, that we are being the upstanding individual, because I think initially everybody wants a business to be a good business. Mm-hmm. They want it to succeed. They want it to thrive. They want it to give what it says it's going to give. And then it's in these moments that they get thrusted into as the business owner or as even the face of the business if you're a technician, that you get in this place where you have to choose to be a good human. Mm-hmm. And then that choice, feeling individual from the business itself, is going to determine whether the business is successful or whether the business does actually thrive. And so that's why a lot of times we say #BeTheBetterTech. Like, it's not just about, be better at installing the hardware. It's like, be better, be a better individual, go the extra mile. Like you said, if it takes picking up your phone on a Sunday, like, do the things that cause people to be seen and heard and noticed and deliver what you say you're going to deliver. And you're going to have a thriving business.
Yeah.
No matter
what
you're doing.
In the instance that something happens, because things happen, people make mistakes. I've made plenty, but we always make it right. And whether you spend the whole weekend there doing it or the whole night, whole evening, you miss whatever it is your plans were, and people seeing you do those things and taking that extra step, it resonates with all of them. And make it right. If you mess up, everybody messes up, but make it right. And
I've talked to, actually, I think this is now the second time I'm going to mention Frankie, but I had him on here for Bid2Bank. And I think that was the last time that came up on Bid2Bank, is that, if you make that mistake, you got to own it like that. And it's hard. It actually gets harder to own it the farther you get away from it. So you try to own it immediately. Like, that mistake goes, shit, that was me. Let me go tell who needs to know. Mm-hmm. Or that was me and I'm going to fix it because I know how to. And so excellent point.
Yep.
So that's awesome, man. Well, I tell you what, that's it. That's all the questions that I have from Bid2Bank. And we're right at the top of the hour. So can you go ahead and tell people how they can get a hold of you or where they can see your stuff? Or if they're even in the area close to Evansville, they'll know how to get a hold of you. That way, I always try to do that for everybody that I come on. So how can people find you?
So I'm in Evansville, Indiana, the most southern point of Indiana. If you ever find yourself down here, just first of all, you got to join Technology Worldwide, because it's awesome and the people are awesome. I got my my picture here. So there's old Baer right there.
Right in front. Yeah.
That was in Philadelphia. I
Yep.
jumped on a plane and flew to a meeting of a bunch of strangers from the internet, and it was one of the best things I ever did. So start with technology if you're not in technology. My company has an Instagram with 0 posts at Ashton Computer Inc. You can message me on there. I do post videos
By the
every now
time
and
they
then.
see it, there might be one post.
There might be one post.
Yeah.
And then I have my personal one at D Higdon 09. So I'd love to hear from anybody if anybody needs anything from me, or if I can help them in any way. Holler at me.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely. Like he said, follow Technology Worldwide. That's, I say at the end of every episode. Let's see if I can do it. It's at TEKNOWLEDGEWW on Instagram. And you can find them on LinkedIn as well. Like I said, they're doing philanthropy in a way. It's a nonprofit 501(c)(3). They've gone through all the steps that it takes, and they're the only community out there that is low voltage and technology centered and based around philanthropy. They're the only people doing it. I promise. I've looked. So check them out. Follow them. Obviously, follow Ashton Computer. Thanks so much, Dan, for coming on today. And we'll have you back when we can. Maybe next time you come on, you'll have a post, and we'll talk about it.
We'll talk about it. Thanks. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, man. We'll see you guys next week on the Security Today podcast.